Thank you. Thanks, Dave. So I'm Lou, and I'm an addict, and it's good to be at my home group, good to be in a meeting, and good to have a message to carry these days. I was praying with a friend just on the way here. It's been a really busy day. I've got my grandkids at the minute as well. So it's been full on. So I was just really praying for God to come in so I'd be able to carry a message of recovery, and just like reflecting on all of my life experience, and basically the shitty things and humiliating experiences that I went through and put myself through to get what I needed, which was drugs, so I could be absolutely out of my nut. God has sort of turned that around and used that today, and turned it into a message, and I absolutely believe that today. There isn't one part of my story that hasn't been used to help somebody else in some way. And I don't mean to make that about me, but for identification purposes really as well. So just absolutely blessed that I have that. And it's and for me, and I know this isn't everybody, because I've also got friends that they're the only person in their family that's an addict, but for me and my family, it's it's sort of shot through it. And there's myself and my two brothers, but it goes back further than that as well. We're all addicts, and we all use together, and it was all kind of really, really available in my home at a certain period. And I can remember clear as day, my brothers, my parents died when we were really, really young, and for a long time I used that as an excuse. I milked that as the reason why I was an addict. Well, I know today that isn't. I know I've got the illness of alcoholism today that hopefully I'll talk about. And so they'd passed, and we were all kind of bringing, I was bringing myself up. They're a couple of years older than us, but it was just all going on in the home. And I remember them using, and they'd be free placing crack cocaine and drinking and smoking weed. And I used to say, just a bit of that. I always wanted to try it. It just looked so good. And for a long time they said no. But one day they did say yes. And I just remember using, and whatever it was. I mean, it was cannabis and free-based crack cocaine. And I can remember using that and thinking, this is absolutely what I've been missing. Do you know what I mean? I knew that this was, good, and I never wanted to not use from that day. It was really, really like that for me. And we were left a inheritance as well. I mean, it wasn't, nowadays it'd be nothing, but back then it was as well. So there was quite a lot of money to use what we wanted to use, and that's what we did. And I can remember it's kind of when I drank to oblivion, but it wasn't really my thing. I mean, I wouldn't separate if alcohol's your thing, that's your thing. But it's there were certain substances that absolutely hit the spot for me. And for me, I liked to be out of my nut, sedated, with heroin, diazepam, benzo, stuff like that. And it just took me. I've got to say that's how it was with my using, that phenomenon of craving that we now know. That part of the illness, it just absolutely took me. And it was really, really short-lived, all the kind of fun days for me. But as a young teenager, I was injecting heroin and chasing that buzz for so long. And I just love the ease and comfort. And, before that, I think about it, it's when people talk about that they didn't feel part of, or didn't feel that they fitted in. Within my home, I did. And I now know, because I was with my two brothers, and we were all three of us were very similar. But if you put me outside of my home, and with people I didn't know, there was definitely a dis-ease there. There was definitely an uncomfortability, and I can remember being shot through with fear. So I identified with that. And of course, when I was using, I had none of that. I can remember, getting that dry mouth now, but I can remember my first attempts really at trying to stop using was going along to a drug agency. Yeah. Spell. I'm going along to a drug agency, and really, I did that because I felt like it was the right thing to do. I remember it's like I'd fallen pregnant with my first child, and it's like, I knew that I really need to sort it out. It's like, I should do something. I'm pregnant. I shouldn't be using. I was only a young girl. Do you know what I mean? And I used to go along to it, and the first kind of thing they did was put me onto a script, and that was kind of like my journey into detox centres. And where we were from, those detox centres were usually in psych wards. Like we didn't have any funding for treatment. My story is not treatment. You're not going to hear about treatment centres and things like that, but it's like, it was usually in a detox centre, in a psych ward. There was 2 men, 2 women in there, and it was, you'd go in there, and all they would do is give you medication to treat the physical side of this illness. So there was no program, there was no solution, and you just had to sort of wait it out, try and get through the detox. And I can just remember sometimes there was like, I had a desire, whether it was an honest desire, but I had a desire to stop using, and I might get through like a few more days. I think I completed 1, but most of the time the story went like this, and it wouldn't matter if I went into a detox centre or in a psych ward to do the detox, or if I went home to Ireland, I'm Irish, and bring all my rubbish back to my nan and all my problems back there, or I would detox there. But the same thing would happen no matter where I detox. And as the drugs come out of me, this is just my experience, like, on the second day, it wouldn't even be like, it would be the second day, as they lowered the dose and I would hit any kind of like feeling or reality, it's like my head would go, my insides would be like I couldn't cope emotionally. I would look around me. I would start thinking about the bed sheets. These are too hard. Do you know what I mean? Look at what they've got me in. I'd be thinking about the food, and I'd be like, look at this. I'd be thinking about him out there that's still using. And what I now know is it's like I was, detoxing. So there is that element of it. Let's not, kid ourselves in. It's really quite painful. But, there was this whole emotional side that I couldn't deal with. And it's like what I was doing was I wouldn't be able to cope. So I'd start rucking with you and building up a fight so I could make an excuse and blame you for leaving. And I would do the same thing back home. I would go home to Ireland, bless my nan. My whole family blamed themselves for us because our parents died and because we milked that excuse. And I would do the same there. All of my family would really try and help me out. Do you know what I mean? And it's like that. And then, as I started to get clean, it's like I just couldn't cope. And I really am so chronically dishonest. And still trying to figure out your feelings today is not easy. Do you know what I mean? It's just that I could not be honest and say, look, I feel like shit. I don't like it, or I want to go and use. I just couldn't say it, and inevitably I'd be in this delusion that I was going to leave the detox or leave Ireland, and I was definitely going to be successfully able to use either a drink and some cocaine, because I never knew about the problem in the first step. Yeah, so I never knew that I couldn't use any mind-altering substance, because that would lead me back to the one that I love. Or I've left there thinking I can use heroin type, you know what I mean? Absolutely convinced, and that 3-day lie, it's like I heard that person in the rooms actually. I was so identified with that, it's like if I'd use one day, it's all right, you can use the day, you can get away with the second day, use the second day, fuck it, you've got to use the third day. And then I would be off and running. And, and there was a load of stuff that came with that. Lots and lots of experience. And I think, my biggest, when I came into recovery, I was so plagued, with guilt and shame and remorse, and secrets and covering things up. Do you know what I mean? Of all the things, I caused a lot of harm to my children. I dragged them with me through my using. And yeah, thank you. I've done a 10-minute warning there. But yeah, so it's like so there was so much stuff that come with it. But fortunately, so I used heroin for, I can't tell you how long. And I used to smoke crack cocaine alongside that. But I'd be able to sort of use a bit, put it down, keep my other, I know, right? But it got to a point like the last 3 years where that drug absolutely brought me to my knees, and I sold myself and did things I said I would never do. You know, when you go to all lows with it, and brought the kids with me there as well. So it's like, and now when I look back at that experience, I kind of thank, I thank God that I got to a place of absolute desperation where I was ready to ask for help, and that was my experience. And but there are some things I wish I'd never done. Some of the harms that I caused, I absolutely wish I'd never done. And what happened to me, like how the message of recovery happened, was my brother. He carried the message, and he had done 13, I don't even know how many treatment centres, but multiple treatment centres, multiple times, used every single time, and on the last treatment centre used, but then got clean. And he came back in the amends process. I think it's really important that we share about that. I think it's really important that you listen to your sponsor about amends and how they direct you. But I thank God for his sponsor, who didn't say, don't go and see Lou because she's using, because that's what he did. And I don't even know what he said, because my head was over the sink, very, very out of my nut. So I don't even know what he said. But what I do remember is he didn't use. Do you know what I mean? And what he didn't do was he didn't drag me to a meeting. He didn't say, I've got to do this. He phoned me off a phone that I would regularly sell, and get a new number, and he would phone it again. And he just let me get broken and more broken and more broken. So eventually I asked for help. So thank God that we carry the message in recovery to our family members, to our friends. And I've got to say, like, within my own area, there was, like I said, there wasn't much funding for rehab. We hung out a lot at needle exchanges. I just love it down there, but you get lots of tablets and things like that. But there's quite a few of us that got clean, that used for years and years and just didn't know that there was another way out. Do you know what I mean? And one's got clean and carried the message to the other that's got clean, and not everybody stay clean. Do you know what I mean? And so my dependence can't be upon another person. It's got to be on God and the 12 steps. But not everybody has stayed clean. But yeah, so I was just blessed with that God-given surrender. I absolutely couldn't have brought that back about myself. And I came down to Bournemouth, and we've got to create the fellowship we crave, right? But we do talk about the good old days, don't we? But we need to keep that going. And when I came into recovery, you just couldn't have missed. You really had to have a lot of cotton wool in your ears. Do you know what I mean? You just couldn't have missed what was going on. And I experienced the love of the fellowship first. So people sat with me while I was detoxing, who I didn't want to sit with because I hated myself. Do you know what I mean? But really, I hated you. It's like, and they spent time with me, and they carried the message to me. And I went to lots and lots of meetings, and they spoke to me about praying, so I remember coming through the rooms and like absolutely coming apart, but they said to me about praying on your knees and praying to God, and I couldn't figure out what was we doing in a meeting talking about God, because I went to church. Not that I went to church, do you know what I mean? Like, but if I went or I prayed, it would be at a church when I did. And and they just spoke to me about recovery, and it's mad, because it's like, okay, so I feel like there was like some elements that I needed to have gotten to a place. It talks about the desperation of a drowning man, doesn't it? Where you're willing, like you're just out of ideas, you cannot fight. And that's there was that, but there was like a strong message going on as well. And I believed some of the people in the room. I didn't believe everybody, but I believed some of the people in the room. And I believed that they were like me, and I asked a woman to help me, so she helped me and she took me through the steps, and it was like, it was so layman. It was so I couldn't think straight, and it was a couple of days in, and she just shared her experience with me. So she read the big book, we read the big book, and we went through the steps. But she used to stop because she knew I weren't taking it in, and she would share her experience and give me identification around that first step. And she talked about that phenomenon craving, and the not being able to stop, or she talked about the mind as well. And that really sold me. I've got to say, it's like today in my recovery, I know if I stop doing this stuff and just like, I know that mental defense that I have against drugs would go. So all the times that I was in a detox centre and I'd leave the detox centre and use, how I was unable to bring to my mind that detox that I just did. Like, it's just crazy, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Talk to me about the malady. And I'm not going to go because I haven't got the time, so I've just been given a 5-minute warning. But I went through those steps and I gave her everything that I had at that point, and I cleared myself of that step 4 through to 9. Do you know what I mean? Like those resentments, that running on fear my whole life, the harms that I'd caused people, the guilt and the shame that all the secrets that I had as well. And I shared that with another woman, and how beautiful, it's like people go to counselling, don't they, for like years and years and years and still don't tell the truth in there potentially, you just, like, and we do, I mean, it's quite quick that we're working the steps here in recovery, and I got moved to a place of neutrality, and that was 18 years ago on Tuesday. I celebrated that, and if that's I couldn't have, if that's just an absolute miracle, isn't it? I couldn't imagine when I came here that I remember leaving my bedsit, wasn't mine, but leaving the bedsit in Bournemouth and walking up to Boscombe, like concerned that I was going to use. Do you know what I mean? Like that the obsession was on me, it's going to come on me and I'm going to use. And it's like, that has gone and it's safely stayed that, stayed like that, contingent on what I've done today. And today, it's like, for me, it's like in my recovery, what it's been like, it's like been trying to grow up, and in times that's been forced, but it was like, so I learned to be a fellow in the meetings, I learned to be of service, I learned to start helping other people. I knew that I needed to get myself out of the way, because selfish and self-centeredness, Michelle, is the root of my problem, and still can be today. I learned how to do it in the rooms. I learned how to be a mother, and I learned how to make amends to people and demonstrate those amends for a very long time. I then, I'm married in recovery, so I've learned how to be in a relationship with my husband, and for us to support each other through thick and thin. Do you know what I mean? And I've learned to be, at the minute, my grandson. So I'm a grandmother. So my grandson a couple of weeks ago was taken into hospital, into intensive care, and it was a really, really heavy experience. It's like he's only 3 months, so he's the baby. There's 5, and it's like my family have been able to lean on me. I've got my 3 boys at home, and I've been a mum and a nan and trying to work. And I sound really self-seeking, but like I'm letting you know, it's like what it is now. It's like my whole recovery has been about my family these past couple of weeks, and I've really had to demonstrate this at home, and be there. And I can't get rid of my kids. It's like my oldest is like 30, and my other child is 27, and my youngest is 21. But my 30-year-old's got 4 kids, 4 beautiful boys. My 27-year-old's got. And like we nearly had everyone gone with just my 21-year-old at home, and it was like bliss. And like my boys moved back home, And now he has a baby, and so now he's with us at the weekends, like, and now I've got the boy, and it's just like, but the thing is, the reason I'm sharing that is I know I'm blessed. I did pray before I come that I wouldn't moan about that stuff. I know I'm blessed that I can do that, because it's just, they just want to spend time with me all the time. Do you know what I mean? And my son, who's 27, who I swear to God works a better program than me and my husband sometimes, like, you know, it's like, this is what happens with your children. But he comes to me, like when something's going on, he comes to me and he sits and he, you know, he takes on board what I say. I ain't got a lot of time, have I? But my recovery, my family have been so blessed by my own recovery, you know what I mean? And it's like, I see them working, we had this big thing the other day, and like, it came to it, my son, actually, he said the right thing. And we were all like, it's too long to get into, but basically they start working the program too, like, you know, they don't need to, but they do. And yeah, I feel blessed to have gotten into recovery and learned some really good habits of praying, meditating, taking inventory, working with somebody else, trying to apply some principles in your home. I also work and like trying to apply that stuff there as well. And I work with quite a few people in recovery as well. And so that's been a really blessing too. But I feel like I've missed loads out, but I know I've got no time left, so I'm just going to leave it there. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks.